Are you ready for an extreme makeover of the mind? With the producer and host of A Better You podcast, the transformational coach whose assignment is to challenge people to change, grow, and evolve into the individuals they were created to be. Here is Dr. Anthony McFarland, providing you with practical tools and wisdom for everyday life challenges for you to win in life, relationships, and finances.
Hey guys, welcome to ABU, A Better You. I'm Anthony McFarland, as you know, yours truly. It's a blessing to be with you. I just came off a vacation, so that's why you see all of this snow on my face. Yes, I had a phenomenal vacation. It was a much needed vacation, and I encourage you, if you have not taken a vacation or vacated just for 2 or 3 days, do it. Why? It has everything to do with self-care. And it also ties into, believe it or not, today's topic, what I want to talk to you about. And I came up with this topic because of the various individuals that I not only coach, but more specifically, the marriage counseling that I do with people, with couples. And one of the things that is happening across the board, people are having a challenge with regulating their emotions, managing their emotions. And so it's important that we understand the impact of emotional triggers and relationship issues. Many of us are not conscious of how we react versus respond in the various type of relationships that we're in, whether that be an intimate relationship, a friendship, business relationship, people we do business with, work with, people we do ministry with. Sometimes people's emotions are kind of all over the place because they have not really dealt with their emotions, or understood how to regulate and manage their emotions, because most of us have not addressed previous trauma, not just childhood trauma, but relationship trauma, life trauma. Life happens. And oftentimes those things that happen to us, we can find ourselves responding or reacting to people, places, and things a certain way, and we're not even conscious of it. And so with that, before we get into today's podcast, I want to encourage you to click like, share, subscribe to the platform, a better you.com. Subscribe to the platform. We have once a month trainings that are phenomenal, master classes that you can partake in, as well as you get access to the back office and a lot of valuable material and videos and trainings that I know will bless your life. So I want to encourage you right now, just take a moment and subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the network, and become a partner, become a platinum partner. I guarantee you it's a game changer. Now, with that being said, most of us have very strong feelings about our feelings. I mean, think about it. We deal with feelings every single day, and you can't escape feelings. You might be the kind of person who has strong feelings and expresses what you feel, how you feel at the blink of a hat. Then again, maybe you're the kind of person who views life through a more analytical lens, or maybe you go with your gut feelings. No matter how you make decisions in life, we all have emotions. And emotions aren't bad. And sometimes they're not good either, right? Sometimes our feelings are right on even before our brain catches up and understands them. Even if we don't like the results of our feelings, they still exist for a reason. God gave us feelings and emotions for a reason. Now, when these feelings become especially strong, it is important that you and I, that we're able to acknowledge and state, this is how I feel, first to myself before I communicate that to someone else. At the same time, it's important that we understand Acknowledging our feelings does not mean we hand them the wheel. I see so many people, so many couples just hand their feelings and emotions over to be the driver of your car. Hear me. It can be dangerous to allow your feelings to drive your car, drive your life. Our feelings, just like our thoughts and our physical impulses, all exist to help us live in the world. So they can be healthy or they can be toxic or bad or indifferent. And that doesn't mean that they get to run the show. It does not mean, listen to me, when you're in tune to your feelings, it does not mean that your feelings get to run the show. Because sometimes if you let your feelings and emotions run the show, it can ruin you. Sometimes strong feelings can override our good sense, not common sense, just good sense, and even keep us from being the people that we want to be. Keep us from being the husbands, the wives, the friends, the business partners, the associates, the teammates that God would want us to be, let alone we would want ourselves to be, right? And I would like to think that we all want to be healthy in relationships, which causes us to ask the question, who do we want to be? Who do we want to be? How do we want to live out our lives, right, with other people? How do we want to do life with other people? As children of God, what should our relationships to our emotions look like? We serve an ordered, perfect God who also, when we understand that God has feelings, Jesus had feelings, who also wept when he walked the earth, right? But God has this order to everything. There's a divine alignment for each and every one of us. And here's the deal, on any given Sunday, you probably experience a range of emotions. Come on, let's be honest. I'd like to think that I'm a person in control, but I experience a range of emotions: excitement, unease, frustration, joy, disappointment. Am I the only one that experienced things like this? Click, give me a click below. Yes, just to let me know that you're human too. And so when you think about this array and range of emotions that we all experience on a day-to-day basis, these often relate to specific events, such as meeting with your boss, connecting with friends who bring friends that you don't necessarily care for, talking, when we're talking current events with a friend, especially politics, it can bring an array of emotions. Am I right about it? And then sometimes just seeing your partner, interacting with your partner, your spouse, your children, your mother, your father, again, can bring a range of emotions, good, bad, or indifferent. So your response to people, places, and things can vary based on your frame of mind, based on where you're at spiritually, where you're at mentally, and the dynamics of the circumstances surrounding the situation that you're faced with. And so the question that we must answer is, what are emotional triggers? We have to deal with emotional triggers. Those things that tug on us, those things that pull on us, those things that trigger us. Emotional triggers are what's called a stimuli or experiences that activate intense emotional responses in individuals. And so when you think about it, these triggers can be rooted in past traumas, negative experiences, whether they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Listen to me, 1 week ago. Individuals may react with heightened emotions based on the situation or circumstance, such as anger, being hot and bothered, fear, sadness, or anxiety, which can influence their thoughts. Being frustrated, being disappointed, experiencing discouragement can cause a lot of anxiety and can influence your thoughts, behaviors, and interactions within our relationships. And truth be told, most of us aren't conscious of how we communicate with others when we're under a certain level of stress or anxiety, or when we're fighting depression or discouragement, or when we're angry. We're not conscious of how we are communicating or how we come off to other people. Most times when we feel triggered, overwhelmed, or flooded with these emotions, right? It leaves us not knowing what's going on, are kind of confused, and you ask these questions like, why are you feeling this way? And most certainly unsure of what to do. Sometimes when you have not done the work, you don't even know how to calm yourself down so that you don't give into the triggers, so that you don't give into the foolishness. You follow what I'm saying? The buffoonery of someone else, or the idiot that you run into in the parking lot at the grocery store, right? So again, emotional triggers can vary from person to person, but there are several common types that individuals often encounter in their relationships, which may include abandonment. Please hear me. I know what I'm talking about. Why? I've experienced this before and went years without realizing that certain triggers in certain encounters I would have in different types of relationships that would trigger me was a result of me experiencing childhood abandonment. And when you think about abandonment is the fear of being rejected, abandoned, or left alone. And again, oftentimes it stems from past experiences of loss or separation. Hello, divorce. When I don't even think parents are really conscious of the adverse effects that it has on their children when they go through a divorce. Separation is one thing, but divorce is another thing. It could be a separation of a good friendship, and all of a sudden that person is absent. It could be a loss. It could be a death of a loved one, and now you're having these feelings of abandonment, but you don't even know how to explain it or describe it as such. Then there's the feelings of rejection. Rejection. Yeah, rejection. The emotional response triggered by feelings of being excluded, unaccepted, or dismissed by others. And it kind of leads to a sense of inadequacy or unworthiness. And then you can kind of start to do a job on yourself. And sometimes it's just a perceived experience within that relationship that makes you feel something, made you feel something that they said. It's something that they did. They didn't call you back. They chose not to invite you, or somehow, unbeknownst to you, as well as them, somehow they sent you the invite, but you didn't get the invite. But whatever it was that did or didn't happen, it left you feeling rejected. And then let's not talk about criticism, whether that be in the workplace, whether that be within, again, your relationships. When you think about criticism, those are the feelings of like hurt because you feel like you're being judged. You feel like you're being attacked, and it puts you on defense. And so there's this attack in response to perceived criticism or negative feedback, often linked to issues of self-esteem and self-worth. Think about this. I used to hear people say this. If you know something is not true, why do you let it bother you? Well, nobody wants to hear anything really negative about themselves. But let me share something with you. If you're going to do anything significant in life, people are going to criticize you. You're going to have some haters. So it's important that you know who you are. It's important that your self-esteem, your self-worth is intact. If not, you're going to be subject to that spirit of criticism or perceived criticism that's going to make you feel all kind of ways. And then whether it's a friendship or a marriage or some type of personal relationship, that thing called betrayal. Oh my goodness, the emotional response. Am I talking to somebody? Are you getting this? Man, I'm telling you, this stuff is so real. Betrayal, the emotional response triggered by a breach of trust or loyalty. I'm big on loyalty. Man, I'm so big on loyalty. Man, if I think that you have breached my trust and loyalty, oh my goodness, it kind of sends me all the way back. But I've learned to manage that. But again, when you're talking about betrayal, man, it can result again in feelings of hurt, anger, and a diminished sense of security within the relationship, where you find it hard to trust that person again. Or how about this? You moved on from that relationship, and now you're finding that you're wrestling with that spirit of betrayal that prevents you from trusting the next person that God possibly sent into your life. Oh, this is good. And then nobody gets out of life. Nobody gets to do this thing called life without experiencing loss. I tell you, it's one of the, experiencing loss can be very heartbreaking. The grief and emotional pain associated with the loss of a loved one, someone significant in your life, a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, man, or an important aspect of one's life, right? It can be something that you've lost. It could be a job you lost. It could be, hey, not just a job, a dog you lost, right? That can cause this grief and this emotional pain that is really unspeakable. But you don't get out of life. You don't you can't get through life without experiencing loss. So it's important that we learn how to handle these different types of emotions and specifically emotional triggers. And so what I just listed were some common types of emotional triggers that can significantly impact an individual's emotional well-being, as well as their communication and their life with others, how they do life with other people. Again, whether it be in their family, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be in ministry, come on, whether it be in community. See, identifying and addressing these triggers is crucial for promoting a healthier life, promoting healthier relationship dynamics. And again, this takes work. I can tell you right now, this is that podcast that you need to listen to over again. I guarantee you. And I can tell you up front, we're going to do a part two. We're doing a part two on this. Why? Because I know so many people need it. Let me reiterate this. Emotions are important and normal. It would be weird if we didn't have emotions accompanying many of the things we go through in life. See, your emotions should be in the vehicle with you, but they shouldn't have the driver's wheel of your life. There's a very powerful psalm in Psalms 103. King David tells his soul, his mind, will, and emotions to bless the Lord. He says, bless the Lord, oh my soul. See, we can tell our emotions how to behave and walk in the joy of the Lord, irregardless of what has happened. Why? Because your spirit man has to be stronger than your emotions. So it's important that we come to this place where we're able to identifying personal emotional triggers is key to growing in your walk in life and relationships. Each individual may have unique emotional triggers that stem from their personal history, experiences, and vulnerabilities. So it's important that we understand identifying personal emotional triggers requires self-reflection and introspection. It involves recognizing patterns, situations, or specific stimuli that consistently evoke intense emotional responses. Here's what you need to understand. Individuals, you and I, can explore some of the key questions. And as we explore these key questions, they'll give us not only answers, but the the secret code to unlocking how to manage our emotions and how to manage emotional triggers better. And so the first question that I have for you, here's a list of questions that I have for you. What situations, again, we're doing some self-reflection, introspection, right? What situations or experiences tend to evoke strong emotional reactions in you? I have to ask myself that. What situation, what circumstance tends to evoke strong emotional reactions in Anthony? And then you have to ask this question, are there any recurring themes or patterns, traits, or tendencies in my emotional responses within relationships that are not healthy? Got it? And then the next question that you have to ask yourself is, are there specific words, behaviors, or actions from others that consistently trigger intense emotions in me, in you? I'll tell you, disrespect is a big one for me. If you talk crazy to me, that is a big trigger for me. From a child up, my mom has transitioned and she's before the Lord. I have never been that child that you have to cuss at, that you have to be extremely aggressive with, and how you talk to me. I'm just not wired like that. I'm not wired like that. So if you do that, because I experienced some people in my life in my formative years that did not know how to regulate their emotions, did not know how to communicate healthy, it did a little damage. So again, the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, how do I typically react when I am emotionally triggered by A, B, C, or D? You have to be conscious of this. Again, I'm trying to show you how you do the work. What's happening in your body? What's happening in your mind? What's happening in your emotions? See, by gaining self-awareness and understanding one's personal emotional triggers, individuals can take steps towards effectively managing and navigating them within their relationships, whether that be work, whether that be intimate, whether that be platonic, whether that be ministry, whether that be community. As we acknowledge our emotions, it's important that we ask questions, and we have questions that will help us navigate, because it'll help us go a long way. And so we have to ask ourselves questions like, am I being the best version of myself? Are these feelings causing me to be salty? Are these feelings causing me to be light? More of the light of God is coming out of me, or darkness is coming out of me? For the believer, we're called to simply respond as Jesus would respond. Sometimes our feelings are at odds with that goal of being more like Christ. Our fear, because fear happens, our anger, our sadness, or even our desire to be happy can stand between us and all that God has done for us. When that happens, we need to make the choice that counts. We need to choose to follow Jesus. What would Jesus do? To follow Jesus instead of our emotions, not allowing our emotions to do what? Take over the wheel of the car. We need to believe in what the Lord has said about himself, what the Lord has said about us, and the world that we live in, more than our own personal experiences. You have to come to this place where the word of God, listen to me, the principles of God, your faith will override or trump your feelings or experiences, which are real. But that's the dynamics of living out of the natural realm and the spiritual realm. See, other times we have the right feelings in a situation, but the wrong application. Because there's some good situations where they're the right feelings in a particular situation, maybe a new relationship, whatever it is, but there's a wrong application. You don't understand how to navigate. You don't understand how to locate where you're at, how to locate if those feelings are good, bad, or indifferent, good for you, good to you, or will be bad for you. So we can go into a situation with the correct response and still make a mess. I don't know about you. I've gone into good situations and still made a mess of it. Why? Why? Because I really hadn't mastered understanding me and how I would handle different situations and scenarios so that it wouldn't be a negative outcome. Does that make sense? See, if we're not careful, again, you can go into a situation the right way and then something happens. And it actually, see, one of the things that I've learned with this life, whenever you're dealing with people, people are special. And, as good as people are, everybody has their triggers, everybody has their good and bad sides, right? Come on, type in a yes if you agree with me. And if you have not mastered you, if you haven't mastered those triggers, if you haven't learned how to counter those emotions in those situations that will arise in those situations, circumstances, let me share some with you. Man, things will go left and go left fast. So if we're not careful, our righteous anger can become a misguided mantra. Yeah, I'll say that again. Our righteous anger can become a misguided mantra. In other words, you're not wrong for how you feel. And you have a right to feel how you feel. Scripture says, be angry, but sin not. And so, your righteous anger can be misguided because you can justify that if a person does this, and I know, and they know, and everybody else know that they're wrong, I'm going to do this. And it doesn't represent you well, nor does it represent Christ well. And so here's what we need to understand. Listen to what I'm about to share with you. Grieving what grieves the heart of God can also easily slip into hopelessness and doubt, and it can have an adverse effect on other people. See, satisfaction can become an addiction to pleasure, and caution and addiction to be stirred up. And so the list goes on. God's spirit can move upon our feelings in powerful ways, but self-control is one of the fruits of the spirit. And we see that in Galatians 5:22 and 23. And I encourage you to go read that when you have time. I want to talk to you in the next session about how, how emotional triggers show up psychologically in the body when you are emotionally triggered or flooded with this array of feelings, right? And how to manage and gain control over those emotional triggers so that you no longer experience setbacks. You no longer are mishandling not just your emotions, but other people's emotions. You say, well, what do you mean by other people's emotion? Again, it comes down to psychology on various levels. So there's one thing for you to manage and master your own emotional triggers and your own feelings and situations and circumstance. And then it's you having done the work like you're doing in this session with me in this podcast, learning how to regulate and deregulate emotions and manage your emotions as well as the emotions of others. See, just because somebody else is emotionally out of control does not mean that you have to allow them to pull you in. There's a way to manage, to respond to their unhealthy behavior. And I'm going to tell you, it takes a lot of practice and it takes discipline and it takes the help of the Lord. All right. With that being said, I hope you have been blessed by this podcast. Again, my assignment is to challenge people to change, grow, and evolve and become the best individuals that God has called them to be. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. And whatever you do, don't miss next week's episode. It's going to be a game changer. We're going to deal with the psychology of emotional triggers, not only how to manage your emotions and triggers with new tools and resources, but also how to manage and not mismanage other people's malfunction emotionally. All right, that's it. That's all. I'm out of time. Make sure you click like and share this podcast with somebody that you know needs to hear this kind of truth that causes change in their life, in their relationships, as well as their business endeavors. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to A Better You program with Anthony McFarland. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.